The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my question without notice is to the Treasurer. Treasurer, in your last answer you said that you did speak to the Reserve Bank of Australia, but yesterday you said that it was your staff that spoke to the Reserve Bank, and I remind you of Hansard, page 2860, that says, "I was asked to approach the National Australia Bank in this regard. This I did not do, but my office did inquire of the Reserve Bank whether it was aware that Rothwell's may have ongoing difficulties." So did you or did you not speak to the Reserve Bank? If you did speak to them, exactly what advice was given to you? And in respect of the advice that you said was given to you on the 23rd of October, was it advice given to you orally? If so, from whom? Or was it advice given to you in writing?
The Honourable Treasurer.
Tut, Sherlock, tut. I mean, Mr Speaker, really, to try and... I mean, look, how desperate are they? WA Inc. has fallen apart because we've established the real WA Inc.'s over there, with the old established, with not Red Fred, Dead Fred,
Order.
as he's been called by his colleagues around the member for Pearce. I can't say the late member for Pearce because he's still here. I mean, the fact is, the old established gold mining industry has had links in the Liberal Party, particularly Western Mining Corporation and Southern companies, for years. You've given that up because you've got nowhere, and now you're on to Rothwell's in 1987, and to try and smother your embarrassment, you try to string out a series of pointless questions about Rothwell's rescue, in which the government was not involved. Now, Mr Speaker, in the previous answer, if I'd said I spoke to as my office spoke to the Reserve Bank, I mean the office of Treasurer, the office I hold, I didn't personally speak to the Reserve Bank. My office spoke to the Reserve Bank, and the information came back to me. No, when I say I mean me or my office. But Mr Speaker, why doesn't this pedestrian go back to a Liberal sub-branch meeting and try his wares there?
The Honourable Member for Keating.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is also directed to the Treasurer. Can the Treasurer inform the House of the economic rationale for levelling the tax playing field through the removal of tax concessions, and what are the government's intentions in this matter?
The Honourable Treasurer.
Well, the rationale, Mr Speaker, the rationale is so that national resources, scarce national savings, go to the most productive places in the economy. That is, the notion of a flat field is a notion of a flat field at home. None of us believe there's a flat field abroad, but if we're in the position where we're not placing our resources in the best places in our own domestic economy, then of course we're doing ourselves a disservice. And the preference, the tariff preference and tax preference, which has otherwise dragged national savings from one place to another and put them in places which have not optimised investment in Australia, have been part of our problem over the last 30 or 40 years. Now, that's why we removed, amongst other things, the exemption on gold mining income, because it was taking investment into gold mining where it might have otherwise been, in national terms, more optimising in other parts of the economy. And that's why, Mr Speaker, the government removed the gold tax exemption. But the fact of the matter is, Mr Speaker, this has been a big issue in Australian public life. And if you go back to 1985, when the member for Bennelong was leader of the Liberal Party, we found in the Kalgoorlie Miner, it says, "Liberal tax threat stuns goldmen." The gold mining industry has been stunned by Shadow Treasurer John Howard's statement the next Liberal government would consider introducing a tax on gold. The President of the Kalgoorlie South Division of the Liberal Party, Mr Krepp, dismissed Mr Howard's comments, which runs against current party policy. Quote, "Mr Howard's a crack at the industry every year," Krepp said. It is his hearty annual. Every time he meets members of the other mining industries, he tells them that a gold tax would be considered. Now this is part of the ambience of the time. Then there's another report in the West Australian in August '85. The Western Australian Liberal Party is in a quandary over the Liberal Party's policy on the gold tax. The state Liberal leader, Mr Hassel, who has fought strongly against the Hawke government's proposed gold tax, is worried by the possibility that his party would introduce a gold tax. Yesterday he asked the federal Liberal leader, Mr Peacock, to explain fully remarks made by his party spokesman on Treasury Matters, Mr Howard. Mr Howard is reported to have said that he could not guarantee that a future Liberal government would not introduce a gold tax. I strongly urge that such uncertainty be clarified, says Hassel. And then in the same paper, on the 10th of August, 85, a couple of days later, 2 days later, it says the Leader of the Opposition, Mr Peacock, yesterday reaffirmed the party's commitment not to introduce a gold tax. So here he is. 2 days earlier, he got Hassel having a go at him. 2 days later, Peacock's moved straight back into line. He's reaffirmed there'll be no gold tax. The statement stems from a plea for the clarification by the WA Opposition Leader, Mr Hassel. The WA branch of the party was left in a quandary over the federal party's policy after Mr Howard had said what he had to say. And then, in the Australian, Peacock reaffirms party's opposition to a gold tax on the same day, the 10th of August. He says, now clear for all to see that the federal Liberal Party's policy in line with my views on the matter, said Hassel. Now, we then jump 2 years to the lovely Senator Panizza, apparently is in the gallery today, although I I don't know him, so I can't recognise him. But he had this to say in his maiden speech. I wish to thank the Liberal Party of Western Australia for the opportunity for me to realise the ambition I have had since I was a 20-year-old to be elected in this chamber. Well, the senators come in to hear what we say about them. They hear what and we've got these days a lot to say about them, particularly West Australian senators. At that election, the West Australian team consisted of Durack, Senator Cheney, Senator Crichton-Brown, Senator Knowles, Dr Alan Eggleston and young Cam Tinley and me, he said. This was obviously called the gold ticket. The gold ticket. I'm an old boy of the college in Perth, the Aquinas, which has turned out many good politicians. There were 3 old boys in the Liberal Senate team, Cheney, Durack and me. Also, the lovely Laurie Connell went to this school, so I'm told. But then he goes on to say this. There have been noises in this place and others that a gold tax should be... Well, we can't be perfect, can we? Mr Speaker, noises on this place and others that a gold tax should be introduced. Mr Speaker, but listen to this one. No one would dare impose such a tax, says Senator Panizza. And then he's got another one headed, all that glitters. We are killing the goose that's been laying a very valuable egg, Senator John Panizza asked today. Are we killing the goose that laid a very valuable egg, Senator John Panizza? Yeah, but laying the egg for whom? Obviously not the nation, only the people who they received election funding from. In the last adjournment debate for 1990, the Senator drew attention to the state of the gold industry in Australia. And then we find that the debate goes on into 1988, and by then what's happened is Mr Peacock has gone, Mr Howard as leader, and the member for Bennelong, and the federal opposition, he says, was reported, will fight the government's plan for a gold tax, despite Leader John Howard's recent support for it on economic grounds, and we start seeing it come through then. And then there's a question put to then Senator Cheney by Michael Maher. I'm not sure of the reference on the World Today, 9th of November 88. Was Mr Howard rolled by the joint parties on the issue of gold tax? No, not at all. But then we find, in the last couple of days, we've got the member for Bennelong saying to Mr O'Doherty, well, West Australians were quite crucial in the decision to change your leadership. Howard, yes, I know that. Howard O'Doherty, I can only rephrase the question. Is it possible that business figures in West Australia who were donated to the Liberal Party had a say in your downfall? Oh, look, I don't. Look, I have no idea. Why don't you go and ask the relevant people? Well, O'Doherty says, all right, perhaps we'll do that. But then on the ABC last night, we have Mr Middleton saying, Senator Cheney says, oh, that's a bit of Keating nonsense. Then Middleton says, but people close to John Howard, cop this one, people close to John Howard claim quite the opposite. They say they have no doubt that in 1989, opposition within shadow cabinet to a gold tax was used to make life difficult for the then opposition leader, the theme the government has taken up with gusto. Now, that is people... Now, while the member for Bennelong is not going to mark himself by saying this, that is, people close to him have. So they've gone and said there's no doubt that part of the reason for his removal was his attitude on the gold tax. And in the meantime, we've got I'm the man to lead, says Senator Cheney says Cheney, Red Fred, now dead Fred, and then there's of course, we keep coming back to this very, very interesting piece by Peter Rees, again the 4th of October 89, where he outlines it all, and we have this extraordinary claim that everyone has a distortion which suits them, Senator Cheney's claim, and you see all of the gold ticket people, including the member for Tangley, the member for O'Connor, and the member for Pearce, and the senators, some in the gallery, were about changing the leadership of the Liberal Party because Mr Howard was too expensive a person to the gold industry to be maintained as leader of the Liberal Party. They were not going to. They were not going to have any. They were not. I know. I mean, the message had gone out on you, John. They'd put a contract on you, old boy. They'd put a contract on you. The Goldies had put a contract on you. And what's more, they made it. They made it. And they only came unstuck when Cro-Magnon got out there bragging about it on television. Now,
Order. The Treasurer will refer to members by their title.
Mr. Speaker, it is a serious matter. Mr. Speaker, it is a serious matter. It is a deadly serious matter when the policies of the Commonwealth can be voted against in this House and in the Senate to remove the taxation.
Order. Order. Members of the government will cease interjecting.
I might add the Treasurer
The Leader of the National Party on a point of order.
conveniently forgets about the coup against Bill Hayden, but
The
I
Leader
take
of
the
the
point of
National
order
Party
under standing
will get to
order
his point of order.
145.
Order.
But an answer
Members on my right.
shall be
Order.
an answer shall be relevant to the question.
Order. Members of the government will cease interjecting.
And that you, sir,
Minister for Land Transport.
that you, sir, on a number of occasions have interpreted your standing orders and in fact told ministers to conclude the answers to their questions and sit them down. This time the Treasurer's been going for over 10 minutes. We've had a very few number of questions in 50 minutes of question time. I ask that you carry out that direction again.
Order. The Treasurer is answering the question. The Honourable Treasurer.
I will draw to a close, Mr. Speaker, and just say that it is a pretty serious circumstance when good instincts, and on this, the member for Bennelong had good instincts. I mean, he's not all bad, Mr. Speaker. He's not all bad. He had good instincts on this, and that was he knew it was a ramp and a rort, that all minerals were taxed, all minerals were taxed, and it was indefensible, and that the party posturing was notwithstanding, he is prepared to get up and support such a thing to be basically rolled over by the member for Kooyong with the support of these people from Western Australia. It is a serious incident in our national affairs, and what we discover now was basically done for money, for the support which the old gold industry and the new gold industry had been giving to the Western Australian Liberal Party to maintain the distortion. That is the member for Pearce's favourite distortion and favoured distortion. Now, this is, as I said, in the broadest sense of the word, rather than specific in a personal cash sense, this is corruption of our national affairs. Corruption of our national affairs.
Order. The